Listen to part of a lecture in a cultural studies class.
Okay, let's get started. Now, today I want to continue discussing changes in artistic movements in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Okay, so now we've seen that in all the arts around that time, there was a strong movement away from what was seen as the restrictions of conventional ideas. Artists of all kinds were searching for more individualistic ways of expressing themselves, trying to break new ground, as it were. Now, this was particularly so in the art form of dance, okay? So remember now that by the late 1800s, dance as an art form had become somewhat stale. There were few people trying to push the boundaries of inventiveness on the stage. Now, it was right around this point in time that a new free-moving, free-spirited dancer named Isadora Duncan suddenly became influential. Isadora Duncan is known nowadays as the mother of modern dance because of her important contributions to theatrical dance. And what I want to do here is take a look at some of the ways in which she was just so different from her contemporaries. Okay, so there are at least 3 ways in which she was seen as an innovator, as a new force on the stage. First, we have to consider that at the time in dancing, that is, in particular ballet dancing, it was mostly the feet and leg movements that were highlighted. In other words, dancers of the time focused their skills on highly ritualized and complicated movements of the legs. What Duncan did was to break away from this tradition, from this convention. She was, I think we can say, frustrated by the constrictions of classical dance and by what she felt was its lack of emotional impact. So she took to emphasizing the use of the whole body in dance movement. And this use of the body was inspired by natural forces, as well as folk dancing. And it included skipping, running, and jumping and twirling, a continuous flowing movement done with skillful abandon and great passion. She believed that the movement of the body could express specific emotions, emotions like anger, joy, and grief. Let me take a moment to mention that it is said that she learned these dance movements as a child by imitating natural phenomena such as the waves on the beaches near her home in California. All right, so another of her great contributions was her innovative use of costume. Now, again, the dance of the period was notable for its stiff shoes and tunics. Duncan just discarded the restrictiveness of these clothes in favor of loose-flowing gowns inspired by classical Greek models. She danced with loose hair and in bare feet, much to the astonishment of her early audiences. Again, I think we can see the influence here of nature and folk dance, things that conventional dance of the period had ignored, or I think we can even say scorned. So, okay, there was also another way we can consider Isadora as revolutionary in her practice. This is in her use of classical music as an integral part of the performance. She insisted that her art deserved to be performed to great music. For example, Beethoven, Bach, and Chopin, and other great concert music accompanied her movements on stage. And this use of music was considered daring and original at the time. Now, I think looking back, it may be kind of hard to appreciate Isadora Duncan's achievement, since so many of her contributions to modern dance are nowadays, in a sense, taken for granted. In truth, she at first had to face considerable opposition from traditionalists, as happens to many highly original artists. Her, for the time, unconventional techniques eventually, though, were widely acclaimed. Perhaps all modern dance technique owes something to Duncan's inventiveness and daring. So, perhaps because of that, her deep originality may not be as obvious to us today.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. 18. What is the lecture mainly about? (19) What does the professor imply about other artists of Duncan's time? (20) Which of the following may have been an influence on Duncan's art? (21) Which of the following does the professor consider a contribution of Duncan's? (22) In the lecture, the professor describes some of the main contributions made by Isadora Duncan to modern dance. Indicate whether each of the following is a contribution made by this dancer. (23) What is the professor's attitude toward Isadora Duncan's innovations? (24) What does the professor imply about Duncan's current status?